Okay, so let's dive right in. What if I told you the real secret to building a billion-dollar company wasn't some brilliant genius solution, but a deep, almost obsessive love for a problem? That's the huge idea from Yuri Levine's book, Fall in Love with the Problem. And in this explainer, we're going to distill the lessons that have turned this book into, well, a Bible for entrepreneurs everywhere.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. When the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, calls a book his Bible, you know it's got to be something special. We're talking about real, in-the-trenches insights from a guy who's built and sold multiple billion-dollar companies. So let's get into the mind of the man who created Waze.
All right, so part one, the spark. Every great startup story begins right here. Not with a flash of genius about a product, but with a moment of just pure, raw frustration. To really get this, we need to go back to 2006.
Picture this. It's a holiday, and Yuri Levine's family is driving home. But they're not in one car. They're in a 10-car convoy. And they're all facing a very simple but very classic travel headache. Which way do we go? I mean, back in 2006, you had no real-time traffic data. So picking the right road was basically a coin flip. It was a complete shot in the dark. And that shared universal frustration, I think we've all felt that.
And that was the spark. The initial thought wasn't, let's build a complex navigation system. No, it was way simpler. If only we had someone up ahead. And then the light bulb moment. They did have people ahead of them, their own family in the other 9 cars. That simple little observation, that was the seed for Waze.
Which brings us right to the book's core philosophy. See, Levine says solutions change all the time. They evolve. A lot of them, well, they just fail. But if you are passionately, deeply in love with the problem itself, you'll have the grit and energy to just keep searching for a solution that actually works. That love, that's your fuel.
Part 2, the desert. So you found a problem you love. Fantastic. Now the real journey begins. And almost always, it leads you straight into what Levine calls the desert. That long, dry, hard period of failure and rejection where your passion gets put to the ultimate test. And being in that desert completely changes how you tell your story. Look at this. A solution-focused pitch starts with our system, or we built this. It's all about you. But a problem-focused story, that starts with the user. It starts with the pain you're solving. That little switch makes you so much more interesting to customers and, you guessed it, investors.
100. Just look at that number. Let it sit there for a second. What on earth could that represent on the road to building a company?
It's the number of times you'll probably hear no from investors. Levine actually calls it the dance of the 100 no's because it helps normalize rejection. Before Waze got its first yes, they were turned down dozens and dozens of times. Hearing no doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're in the game.
So this desert of no's isn't just about toughing it out. It's about learning. And this quote nails the mindset shift you have to make. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the prerequisite. Every single no, every wrong turn, that's just data. It's the experience you need to eventually make the right decisions.
Part 3, the oasis. Now, if you can survive that desert of failure, you might just have a chance of finding the oasis. And for a startup, the oasis has a name: product market fit. It's that magical moment when you are finally creating real value that users just can't get enough of.
But oh man, finding that oasis is brutal. When Waze first launched worldwide, the results were an absolute disaster. As you can see, more than 90% of people who downloaded it just left. They churned and never came back. In the consumer world, retention is really the only metric that matters. If people aren't sticking around, you haven't created any real value yet, period.
So how did they fix it? By getting into this relentless, humbling loop. You listen to your users. You build a new version. You become 100% convinced that this time it's going to work, only to launch it and realize, nope, it didn't. And then you do it all over again. It's a cycle of listening, building, failing, and just repeating.
Part 4, the summit. For those who survive the desert and find their oasis, there's one last climb, the summit. This is that life-changing moment of an exit, the culmination of the entire crazy journey.
And for Waze, this was the reward. In 2013, Google came knocking and acquired the company for over $1 billion. It was the ultimate validation for all those years of struggle, all those no's, and that unwavering focus on solving one single problem:
traffic.
And just to prove this whole framework wasn't some lucky one-off, Levine did it again. 7 years later, his next company, the public transit app MoveIt, was bought by Intel for nearly $1 billion. This method, it's repeatable.
But making that final call to sell your company, it's not just about the numbers on a spreadsheet. Levine really stresses this. After all the data is analyzed, it comes down to a deeply personal question. It's about your team, your vision, your journey. And in that moment, you have to trust your gut.
Okay, so let's bring it all home. What are the key commandments from this Founder's Bible? We're going to do a little lightning round of the biggest takeaways you can apply to your own journey, starting right now. First, your core beliefs. Number 1, do not fall in love with your solution. 2, tell a story about the problem. 3, make sure it's a big problem worth all the pain. And 4, maybe the most important, always remember that you are a sample size of 1. Get out there and make sure other people actually feel this problem too.
Now this one is tough, but it's so critical. Firing is more important than hiring. Levine's point is that keeping the wrong person on the team is like poison. It kills morale, it breaks trust. Making that hard call protects your culture and lets the rest of your team really shine.
And finally, here's a mantra for taking action. Don't put off the hard decisions. The second you hear yourself saying, "Oh, we'll fix that next time," you need to remember this. Next time is now. Real progress only happens when you act on what you know today.
And that really brings us to the end. The entrepreneurial journey is this incredible roller coaster of failure and frustration, and, if you're lucky, breakthrough. But it all starts in the same place, not with a solution, but with the deep, unwavering passion for a problem. So, the only question left to ask is, what's yours?